presentation is Assistive Technology in High School and Beyond, presented by me, Linda Beliveau. I am the Assistive Technology Specialist for AT in New Hampshire. Starting off with how AT in New Hampshire started to exist, it started with the Assistive Technology Act that defined any assistive technology as any piece of equipment that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. We see the yellow bar at the bottom. So when we think of what's the definition of used to increase, maintain, or improve, we want to think of improving initiation, independence, accuracy, quality, and quantity. And what defines assistive technology was really important when the Assistive Technology Act was put together, because it put into place a law that said that assistive technology can help individuals who experience disabilities, and every state should have an assistive technology center, part of the federal act, and every assistive technology center is mandated to perform demonstrations, loans, and AT reutilization as part of the federal grant to support an assistive technology center. So this is what the Assistive Technology Center for New Hampshire looks like. It's AT in New Hampshire. The website's a little different. It's atinewhampshire.atforall.com. And what the Assistive Technology Center is, a virtual center. It's a library. It's a library where anybody can become a member by creating an account, and they can connect with the assistive technology specialist to either request a loan, request a demo, or to request assistive technology that's been gently used and refurbished and sold at a reduced price. And when we think of assistive technology, we think of access. We think of access to work, education, and leisure. We take a look at these pictures and we can see that access can be defined as whatever works for that individual. It could be using a head mouse and using the left click option with a mouse switch, or it can be access to a tablet with 2-switch scanning. And leisure, it could be learning how to scan, learning how to use switch access in a really fun way with a switch activity. One of the very first things we want to take into consideration when we're thinking about access is how is that individual seated in their chair. Their feet are on the ground and they have good visual contact with the materials that they're needing for work or for learning. You have to take a look at the way that they're seated in their chair. It could be a wheelchair. You know, are their wrists in a position where they're able to isolate their fingers for keyboarding? Feet planted firmly on the ground. One thing to consider is definitely how are they comfortably seated in a chair. And here's the process of access. When you're thinking of access, it's access in a variety of different ways. Access to a keyboard for productivity, access to a monitor for visualization, access to being able to get into a building, use an elevator, being able to have Braille. So access is a very big word, and AT in New Hampshire is very, very much a large player in the ways that individuals in New Hampshire, we call them our stakeholders. AT in New Hampshire can provide a loan, like a library book, in a variety of those different access methods. And when we think of access, we don't want to start with 2-switch scanning or something very complicated. we always want to think that there's a continuum. We don't want to inundate an individual with something that's very complex when maybe that's all they need is a pencil grip, or maybe they need a pen that's a pen that has a dual purpose and can record a lecture so they can take their notes at their very own speed. Or it can be something more comprehensive, like software that can read the text, it can provide voice to text, it can highlight important words, it can look up the definitions of words. So this picture is a demonstration of thinking of assistive technology from low, middle to high tech. Here's high tech, here's leisure, here's gaming, here's an individual that has definitely the need for high tech so he can interact. He has access to the world as he wants access to it. If it's gaming, then that's the provisions of the Assistive Technology Act and how AT in New Hampshire can be very helpful to provide assistive technology for access. When we're thinking of assistive technology, it can be overwhelming, and there is a resource at WADI.org. WADI stands for the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Initiative, and getting to their website offers in publications a resource to the AT continuums. So just to give the WADI some notification of the importance that they can play in New Hampshire by giving us some guidelines to the assistive technology continuums. There's also other resources that can be incredibly helpful. Here's an example of a continuum. A continuum for mathematics is low-tech tools for reading and writing the math, all the way down to speech recognition software. So it can be really helpful to have an outline and a progressive sort of outline of what assistive technology can be borrowed at AT in New Hampshire. You can start with borrowing, requesting physical manipulatives, and moving on to requesting the graphing calculator, the try it before you buy it kind of approach. And as we start to move into what are some of the functions for learning and for being productive in a job, it's the motor aspects of writing. And so we're taking a look at the continuum. So we take a look at first, do they need a seat cushion? Are they able to reach the floor with their feet? Is their vision adequately provided so that they don't need to bend their neck downward? Here we have an example of taking a look at the continuum, and also we want assistive technology to provide them with being able to successfully initiate, to successfully be independent, to be accurate, and to demonstrate quality of work and quantity of work. And so what we have also is some assistive technology software with word bank supported writing. So an individual with a unique profile might find using word banks very, very helpful in increasing the quality and quantity of their writing if they're not able to hold a pencil for very long. And also when thinking about writing, there's rate enhancements. Oftentimes individuals who experience disabilities, they fatigue quickly. They don't have a lot of endurance. So when we think of assistive technology, we can think of assistive technology to increase their performance, their speed, their accuracy, and reduce the effort. This is a on-screen keyboard, so it doesn't require a lot of visual down to the keyboard and back up to the monitor. Everything is visually located, and it provides word prediction to reduce the amount of keyboard strokes that are required to compose a sentence or to compose a paragraph and more. We also can think of alternative keyboards. So in the forefront of our thinking, we're always thinking of assistive technology to help support initiation, independence, accuracy, quality, and quantity. And there are so many options available to help an individual based on their profile. And they may need an alternative keyboard. Using the QWERTY keyboard just isn't sufficient for them. They're not initiating. Well, can we provide them with an alternative keyboard? This happens to be an alternative keyboard that's an on-screen keyboard, and it has word banks. So they would select the sentence starter and select the ending of their sentence, as well as selecting their punctuation. Considered an alternative keyboard. There's also other ways of thinking. If they're not able to interact with a keyboard, they can use their voice. This is a picture of the on-screen keyboard that is provided on an iPad or an iPhone, and an individual can fluctuate from using the keyboard, and then if they get tired, they can turn on the microphone and they can use speech recognition. When we think of the continuum, the picture that is on the right, if they're not quite comfortable using speech recognition, there are pens that can record their voice. So if they have a hard time getting all of their thoughts out on paper, they can record their thoughts and they can pace themselves to write out that complete thought in their comfort zone. Again, at the bottom, we're always thinking about assistive technology to do the very important things: independence, initiation, and accuracy, quality, and quantity. We're moving on. When we think of access, we think of accessible instructional materials, the acronym AIM. Digital materials can provide individuals who experience disability a way to engage in it in a way that they can change the representation of it. Universal design in iBooks with an iPad. They can change the size, they can change the spacing, they can change the background color, they can change the theme. And those things might be all that they need in consideration of accessible instruction and materials, as well as with taking a picture of a worksheet and using it with a screen reader. It's a way for them to have access if they need a talking worksheet. If their thinking is way above their ability to decode, they can use a screen reader with a talking worksheet, and they can complete this continents and oceans worksheet with a little bit of assistive technology. And when we're thinking of access, we're thinking of, well, who is designing with individuals who experience life differently, meaning all of us, and universal design. If we look at the picture and spoken content that's on the far right, Apple is doing a really nice job with built-in accessibility features. Right here is spoken content, and whatever is displayed can be, an individual can be provided with auditory supported reading. Moving into math, again, we see that same continuum and how assistive technology in New Hampshire, AT in New Hampshire, can be really helpful with moving an individual throughout that continuum if what's needed is not precisely known, and borrow before you purchase it, try it before you buy it, in partnership with AT in New Hampshire. With that mantra, again, in math, the same expectation holds true. We want that student to initiate. We want them to be independent as possible, and we want them to demonstrate their learning with as much accuracy, quality, and quantity as is possible. We move into assistive technology to support independence, safety, and wellness. These days, it is so possible to do that with personal assistants built into our phones, built into iPads, and even built into watches. Back in the day of Dick Tracy, right, we thought that wouldn't that be amazing? A wearable that can connect us to our world, so we can have help reach out to connect with an individual to say that I need some help with this, as well as all of the things that can do with wellness and executive function and building independence. When we think of all those gadgets that can help to support safety, independence, we think of, well, how do we actually know what content can be provided? With this app, that's bridgingapps.org, there is the possibility to do feature matching. So what are the features that would be required for me to be independent when I need a symbol supported calendar, for example? Is we take a look inside of this website and we can see that if I need symbol supports for a calendar, I can go into the search bar and I can type in the features that I am needing, and it will offer a collection of different apps that meet that category. I need symbol supports with my calendar. That's important to my independence. And at the bottom, you can get some feedback of, has this been reviewed? And what are the reviews? I might want to think about this one on the far left doesn't have any reviews, and maybe that's not maybe that's not how I want to move forward with trying out some assistive technology to personalize my life or suggest personalizing the life of somebody else. You can also see the price here, where to buy it. You can search in different categories. There's a column on the left. You can search for Android, multiple operating systems, or you can search for Apple apps at the App Store. Bridging Apps is a really good website. It's a really good resource. The other thing that's really important as we're starting to transition into independence in high school and beyond is sometimes we need a little assistive technology to support our executive function. And the Universal Design for Learning, the UDL guidelines.cas.org, provides a framework for executive function. So for self-regulation, for example, and for goal setting. So getting into this website to take a look at the language, or what is the framework around executive function, and what are some things that an individual might need to learn to wrap around, or have the team wrap around them to gain independence if there's weakness in executive function. And when we dig a little deeper into universal design and engagement and self-regulation, we can see that cast.org, they even provide tools that can provide that framework, that language, that resource around using assistive technology to support self-regulation, part of the executive function. And that is the end of this presentation on transitioning to high school and beyond. Thank you very much. And please reach out to me, Linda Beliveau at atinewhampshire.org.